Chapter 14. Trouble. The Armed Nation of Dwargon. This was the kingdom of the dwarves. 1,000 years had passed since its founding by the first hero king, Grand Dwargo. Throughout its history, it had protected and advanced its culture and technology. The current king, Gazelle Dwargo, was the third to rule since the founder, yet he carried an air of ambition reminiscent of his grandfather in his youth. He was renowned as both a great hero and a wise king who governed this land with fairness. This was the land ruled by such a wise king, a free trade city and a central hub of commerce between different races. For this reason, it also held the title of a strictly neutral city. The wise king would never permit any act of armed conflict within its walls. It was a well-known tale among adventurers that even the Eastern Empire avoided any open conflict with the armed nation of Dwargon. If you picked a fight with the dwarfs once, there would be no second time. They were said to be so ruthless that they would utterly crush their opponents. The name Armed Nation was no mere boast. A high-powered legion of mages protected by a wall of heavily armored infantry. Any foe who thought them would be annihilated by the firepower of the mages, unable to even break through the infantry's wall. For 1,000 years, the undefeated strength of the dwarven army was famous. And what backed up that strength was none other than the equipment produced by their advanced technology. The arms and armor crafted with their cutting-edge techniques were overwhelmingly superior to those made by humans. Therefore, mankind chose to form friendships with the dwarves, not conflicts. That is precisely why, even if one encountered monsters within their domain, few would be foolish enough to start a fight there. A city where humans and monsters mingled. It was one of the most unusual places on this earth. A nation that enjoyed peace despite being overflowing with the tools of war. Perhaps there was a certain irony in the fact that the headquarters of arms dealers was the place furthest from conflict. A line had formed in front of the gate, a great gate built as if to seal off a massive natural cavern. This main gate was said to open only when the army marched in or out, an event that occurred just once a month. Unfortunately, it was closed today. Below it, a smaller door was installed specifically for entry and exit. The queue was for the passage on the left. It seemed the one on the right was reserved for nobles and other important figures. That was my conclusion as I stood in the left-hand line, observing my surroundings. Even in this left-hand line, the process varied. Some passed through freely, while others were taken to a separate room for inspection. It was a security posture befitting the name Armed Nation. I'd heard you could move about relatively freely once inside, but still, what an incredible line. I might end up spending more time waiting here than I did on the journey itself. Just as I was thinking that, hey, there's a monster over here. We're not inside yet, so it should be fine to kill it, right? Yo, what are you lining up for? You got some nerve. If you don't want to die, give us your spot and leave all your stuff behind. Do that and we'll let you off the hook this time. And came a statement of incomprehensible gibberish. No, wait. It was a voice filled with malice, directed right at us. Right now, it was just me and Gopta here. After all, bringing along a whole group wearing only loincloths would make us stand out in a bad way. Just me and Gopta, our guide, will go. That's what I had decided. Rigor had looked like he wanted to come, but I had to refuse. They were camping at the forest entrance, waiting for our return. So, it was just the two of us. Did that make us look like easy prey? It seemed we had caught the eye of a pair of adventurers who didn't feel like waiting in line. Hey, Gopta, you hear something? Yeah, I hear it. Did you get hassled like this the last time you came? Of course. I got beaten to a pulp right here and was rescued by some kobold merchants. If they hadn't picked me up then, I might have died, you know? So you got hassled. I guess it can't be helped then. It's pretty much the fate of weak monsters. So he did get hassled. And apparently it was a given. I wish he'd told me that sooner. He hung his head, a look of grim acceptance in his eyes. He'd finally gotten to a point where he could talk to me without being so nervous. I worried this little failure might set him back. I was a little concerned. Hey, don't you ignore us, you weakling monsters. Hold on. Isn't a talking slime like super rare? We could probably sell it as a sideshow attraction, huh? The pair continued their irritating conversation. I may or may not have been told that I have the mercy of a Buddha, but this was starting to piss me off. Gupta, do you remember the rule I told you before? Yes, of course. Good. Then for a little while, I want you to close your eyes and cover your ears. And whatever you do, don't look this way. I don't really get it, but roger that. All right then. It wouldn't be very educational for the person who made the rules to be the first one to break them. Or at least, I'd rather not be thought of that way. Now that the inconvenient Gupta has his eyes closed, shall we take out the trash? Just then, the man on the right's gaze shifted. I followed his line of sight. A trio was watching the situation unfold with smirks on their faces. The pair in front of me consisted of a swordsman and a lightly armored man, probably some kind of thief. The trio was made up of 2 figures in robes, likely a mage or a priest, and 1 large warrior. My prediction? They were all one party. 2 of them would drive us off and secure a spot in line. Then the other 3 would finish us off in the shadows and rejoin the first 2 with innocent looks on their faces. That was most likely their plan. This was probably how they always did things, killing any weak monsters they found and stealing their belongings. How clever of them! But they picked the wrong target this time. Hey, wait your turn. I'm a generous guy, so I'll let it slide if you go now. Get to the back of the line. The taunting began. The pair stared blankly for a second before their faces turned bright red. They had short fuses. You damn weakling monster, don't screw with us. You're dead, buddy. We were gonna let you live if you left your stuff, but not anymore. They started spouting lines fit for a third-rate villain. You can't work for a general contractor unless you can order around scary-looking old guys with just a jerk of your chin. Some of those old-timers even have some playful drawings on their bodies. The threats of a couple of young punks like these are nothing to me. A weakling monster? Are you referring to me? Who else would I be talking about? A slime is the weakest of the weak. Get over here now. Since you can talk, maybe we'll make you a monster slave instead of killing you. A monster slave? Do those exist? I'll set that aside for now. The surrounding merchants and adventurer types were starting to notice the commotion. First, I needed to draw some attention. I didn't know if a concept like self-defense existed here, but it would be a bonus if I could get some witnesses later. But wasn't there a single kind soul willing to step in and help? Maybe if I were a beautiful girl, but for a slime, no chance. Weakling this, weakling that, you have quite a foul mouth. And did you say a slime? You look like a slime from any angle. You little bastard, I can't forgive being made a fool of by a small fry like you. I'm killing you after all. And with that, the pair drew their weapons. They finally pulled them out. Geez, to think the first humans I talked to would be like this. What bad luck. The monsters have been friendlier. The people around us began to back away, giving us a wide berth. The gatekeepers seemed to have noticed the disturbance as well and were starting to move hastily. All right then, I slowly moved forward, and then... You call me a small fry? A slime? Since when were you under the illusion that I was a slime? I said it with a dramatic flair. Of course, I look like a slime. They'd obviously thought I was one from the start. This was all for show, probably. What? Cut the bluffing. If you're not a slime, then show us your true form. You won't be able to make excuses after you're dead. It seemed they were willing to wait for me to transform, just as planned. I was confident I could win even in my slime form, but it would be hard to hold back and I'd likely slice them clean in two. It's difficult to adjust my power to just the right level to knock them out. Very well, I shall show you my true form. I shouted, releasing a suggestive amount of my aura. Just a small amount, of course. I scanned the area to see if anyone had noticed the faint aura. Only a few of the onlookers watching from a distance seemed to have sensed it. The two idiots in front of me and their apparent friends showed no sign of noticing. These guys, they weren't as tough as they talked. Enough observation. Now, what should I transform into? A black mist erupted from my body. It enveloped me and, when the mist cleared, a single monster stood in its place. A black wolf. Huh? When I'd first mimicked one right after preying on it, I took the form of a dire wolf. But now my fur was as black as the evolved Ranga and his pack, and my body was even larger than Ranga. 2 horns protruded from my forehead. Mimicry, Tempest Star Wolf. It seems that when a monster species I've preyed upon evolves, my mimicry of it gets an upgrade too. This felt like a stage of evolution even beyond Ranga. I could feel an overwhelming power. The 2 idiots would surely run away after seeing this form. Or so I thought.
You can make yourself look tough, but that doesn't change the fact you're a slime. Seriously, did you think we'd get scared and run away from that? They didn't realize at all. Come on, I should look dangerous enough for you to tell at a glance. In the first place, if a slime transformed, you should at least be wary, even if you couldn't tell if it was an illusion or not. And yet, these guys didn't seem to care in the slightest. Maybe they felt secure because their 3 hidden friends were nearby. My available skills had increased. Super olfaction, thought communication, coercion, shadow step, black lightning. 5 of them. Shadow step was the skill Ranga and the others were currently practicing. The goal was to hide in their partner's shadow and appear when called. Right now, they were just practicing entering shadows, so they had a long way to go. That leaves black lightning. I didn't even need to test it. If I did, the pathetic men before me would be charred black. My predictions tended to be on the optimistic side, so it could be even worse. That meant I had no skills I could use here. If only coercion worked on idiots. In a way, are idiots invincible? I mean, some of the onlookers were so scared they'd fallen on their backsides. Good grief, I've had enough. This is a pain, so come and get me. I let them have the first move. What happens when I take damage while in a mimicked form? I'd experimented with it once as a lizard. When I kept taking hits and the damage exceeded a certain amount, the mimicry was dispelled. At that time, there was no damage to my slime body. Presumably, my body is constructed from the magicules I use, and the damage doesn't reach my main body. The limitations were that it took about 3 minutes before I could mimic again, and I had to pay a price in magicules for each monster I mimicked. The amount of magicules used was trivial for me, so it wasn't a problem. There was no time limit. In other words, I could let them attack as they pleased. Even if they turned out to be strong, I could just run away the moment I reverted to a slime. At my words, die. Ooh-whoa, wind slasher. The lightly armored warrior threw daggers at me, and the swordsman, probably using a skill attack, charged at me, his blade glowing green. Clang! Crack! Throwing 3 daggers at once was impressive, but they didn't have enough power to pierce my tough fur. As for the swordsman, the poor guy, his prized sword had snapped in 2. Did you just do something? I asked, mocking them as thoroughly as a classic villain. I mean, did he really do anything? That's how little damage I took. Was that skill all for show? No way. What kind of tough fur is that? Impossible. This can't be happening. My sword is made of sterling silver. It's supposed to have an increased effect against monsters. Well, duh. Silver is brittle, isn't it? What is this guy talking about? Hey, you guys help out too. The swordsman, no longer caring about appearances, called for his companions. So those 3 were his friends after all. It's all over for you now. Well, I didn't think we'd actually get a turn. A slime's transformation magic? Interesting. I'll dissect it after it's dead. It hasn't moved an inch since it's transformed. The magic probably breaks if it moves. Am I right? Hit the nail on the head, didn't I? They spouted whatever nonsense they wanted. And then the 5 of them spread out, surrounding me,
and launched a simultaneous attack. The light warrior lunged with a short sword. The swordsman chanted and sent a blade of wind at me. He's surprisingly skilled. The heavy warrior swung his great axe with a yell of heavy crush. The mage attacked with magic, chanting fireball. The priest, preparing for an attack from me, was constructing a magical barrier. As a party, they were probably well balanced. The only unfortunate thing for them was that none of their attacks had any effect on me. I gave them a quick glance. They were too shocked to even speak. Maybe coercion would work on them now. A whoa! I unleashed coercion carried on my howl. However, this was a huge mistake. Even the onlookers fainted or soiled themselves. In short, it had turned into a major disaster. Oh crap, what should I do? I found myself holding my head in my hands. Huh? The group of 5? They took the full force of the coercion at point-blank range. Well, I'm sure you can imagine. My magic sense detected the figures of the dwarven guards running towards us. One thought. As I looked at the 5 of them, leaking all sorts of things, I thought, cleaning that up is going to suck, and began to escape reality, as if it had nothing to do with me.